Today's special guest is the head football coach of Southwest Oklahoma State University, Chet Holbush. And Chet has 17 years of coaching experience at the collegiate level. He has had a fantastic career as an assistant. He's been a coordinator on special teams, on offense. He's been at Emporia State, Delta State, Southeast Louisiana, and most recently was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Missouri Western. And welcome, Chet. How's it going?
Good, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Oh, shoot, man. We go way back. And,
Sure.
It's interesting. Chet is, it says on your bio, you're a native of Moundsville, West Virginia. Maybe I should have played Country Roads or something. But, it's amazing. You played for me at Emporia State, was a all MIAA player, I think, pretty much every season, and for 4 years in a row. And I have, he was in my very first recruiting class with some great players that there's a bunch of records, even though Emporia State's got a great football program right now. It's a bunch of records you guys still have. And, you're part of something real special there, and we'll get into some of that as well. You did graduate. When did you graduate from Emporia State? It had to have been like 99 or 2000.
2000, I think, actually, when I got my degree.
Yeah, okay. And then you and your wife, Holly, have a 9-year-old daughter, Lauren, and she's the gymnast, and she's having a lot of fun. I always see her stuff on Facebook. It's amazing watching them grow up. Man, I can't believe she's 9 years old.
I know, it goes fast.
It does go fast. And I tell you, it's wild because I've got a daughter, Meredith, who you would have known when you were playing for me. And she's working in New York City in a design firm and all that. And she's out of college. And my son, Michael's at Duquesne, musician. He's going to go into his senior year. So they go fast.
Yep.
And shoot, Chad, I've got a 6-year-old, Eli. Yep. So I think he's the linebacker or something in the bunch. So we'll see how he does. But he's a piece of work. But I'm glad to get you on board. I know it gets busy, when you take over a job as a head football coach, and you've got really a tremendous opportunity ahead of you there. And I want to go back a little bit. I usually start this with guys as far as how did you get started in coaching? Because I know your dad was a highly successful football coach, and I'm assuming there's a little bit of that in there, but what got you started? Why did you want to become a football coach?
I just really felt it was something I was good at, even as a player for you, I felt like I was a coach on the field. And I just felt it was a calling. I don't think my dad never pushed me in that direction. If anything, he probably pushed me away from that. But when the time came when I got done playing, I knew it's what I wanted to do. And that thought has never changed.
Well, you certainly had a tremendous run. We talked about all the places you've been and some of you've had some work for some really good coaches, and we'll get into that later. I think what's interesting with you also is that you've been a coordinator on not just offense, but you've also been a special teams coordinator as well, which I've always thought gives a guy a tremendous understanding of the whole program, because other than the head coach, that's the only guy meeting with both sides of the ball.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you give me some insight as now you're in your first head coaching job, what you've gained from that experience as from being a special teams coach, and I know your expertise is definitely offense, but right now I just want to hear about how that's helping you with this job right now.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. You get a chance to work with the entire team. In every position. So, if anything prepared me for that, I think being a special teams coordinator did. I really felt that is also a chance, an opportunity to win football games. Those are possessions that can dramatically change the outcome of a game with one single play. And I like to think that through the years of doing that we did win some games because of special teams. And I know people talk about that, and I know your importance on special teams, but it's something that I felt because of my involvement. I felt that we actually won football games because of that. So I took a lot of pride in it.
Now, how are you going to handle special teams down at Southwest Oklahoma?
I've got a guy that actually played for me at Emporia State. He's going to kind of do them this year. He worked directly under me at Delta State and Southeastern Louisiana. I was fortunate enough to bring him here as the offense coordinator, but he's going to be more directly this first year involved with special teams because I'll be more involved with the offense this year. And as we transition moving forward, he'll move forward towards taking over the offense, and I'll move back from special teams. But Tyler is he's my right-hand man, and he knows how I want things done. He knows the schemes I want to use and the techniques I want to use. So there's no learning curve as far as how we want to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's holding up on punt or working the trap on kickoff return, or, we speak the same language. So if there are any adjustments that need to be made, I don't have to explain to him, what we need to adjust or why we're doing it. So he will handle that, and he'll do a tremendous job. He's already done a tremendous job bringing some specialists in here. And we know at this level, that's most of the battle right there, is bringing in the right guys. And actually one of your guys, Paul Assad, has actually helped us.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Paul's the best in the business.
No doubt. And I met him through you and Louis. And so he is grooming a kicker for us right now. He actually texted me last night and said, young man's doing great. And, if Paul puts a stamp on that, says a lot.
Oh, yeah. I remember, I think it was my first or second year in Lubbock. And I knew Paul for a while because he had written an article for my magazine and all that. And it was, I got him and I said, look, I just need a guy that can kick off. And he found me one in North Carolina somewhere and brought him in. The dude was banging him out of the end zone. It's like,
yeah,
that's all he did. He just kicked off. It was great. It was a game changer for us. But he's been special.
He even, Paul talked about kicking in the Oklahoma wind, and how smart he is. So
yeah.
There's things that a lot of people probably wouldn't consider that he did. So thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, that's what it's all about, connections, right? I think that's fantastic. Now let's talk about you talked a little bit about, Tyler, is it Hennis? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tyler
and
Hennis.
I'm really intrigued when you take a job and, you meet guys along the way. I looked at your coaching staff a little bit online. What were your thoughts because you get there and I know it's like drinking through a fire hose because that stuff's coming at you fast and furious, and you're trying to put together a coaching staff because you got to get out and recruit and you got so many things going on. Take us through the process of how you decided, who your coaches were going to be, did you have to recruit them there? What did it take to get these guys on board? And just take us through that process, because that is never easy, because there's some guys out there they're like, why didn't he hire me? Because I knew him, it's like, hey, I was waiting for a call. How come I didn't get a call? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So take us through that, because I think that's always interesting for a guy in his, certainly in his first head coaching job.
That that was probably the difficult thing. Is there weren't many qualified or overqualified guys that I'd been with and knew and that reached out to me. The first thing I did was I tried to have a realistic evaluation of myself and really evaluate what my weaknesses are, and then try to surround myself with people that not only could overcome my weaknesses but knew them and could pitch in when those things needed. So I needed to find some guys that I could really trust. We talk about radical transparency around here, and I try to surround myself with guys that are radically transparent. And sometimes that means telling the head coach he might not be doing something right, and sometimes it might be me telling them, hey, I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I had to find some guys that didn't have some egos, but also had enough intestinal fortitude to be able to tell the head coach that they disagree. So I made 4 phone calls. 4 guys said yes. That was fortunate. Now, since I've gotten here, 2 of them have moved on.
Okay.
One got a job at Memphis. Great. That's an opportunity for him to get a better job. And then John Weimers, who I actually was the graduate assistant with at Emporia, he got a chance to go back to Ark City High School in Ark City, Kansas, where he'd been previously. And that was something that when I hired him, I knew that that's what he wanted to do. But one of my most trusted colleagues, and he was still able to get us through spring ball. And then we brought in another O-line guy that I had ties with, and Weimers had ties with as well. They worked together. So called him up. He said yes. He's actually from Oklahoma, Chris Stutzer. He's from Lawton. So not only is he a good football coach, but he's also from Oklahoma, and he has ties to me.
Yeah.
And it's been a good asset. So I don't say I hired friends. That's not it at all. I'm fortunate enough that a couple of them are good friends of mine, but I hired guys that I really trusted and that compliment me really well. And it's been great, and they've been great. And if anything that I've got compliments on is how well my staff has worked, how hard they worked, and how much energy they have. And that's because of them, nothing I did. So I was fortunate.
Well, it's the process. It's like anything else. I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you started to explain, hey, I had to look at myself first before I came out and decided who was going to be a proper fit, because you're right. Anytime, I've taken a head coaching job myself, it's like, geez, I got so many guys that call me, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, every job is different. You have to hire a different person that might fit better there. Like you're just talking about a guy with Oklahoma ties. Some people that aren't from Oklahoma don't realize that that's as important as if you're from Texas, hiring guys from Texas,
Yeah.
and it's like, not like every one of them has to be from there, but you better have somebody.
Yeah.
And it's because I can remember getting hired by Mike Leach down in Lubbock. And one of the first things that we ran into, we started talking about, hey, we have to hire a Texas high school football coach. I'm like, what? I mean, I'd never heard of that anywhere. And I'm like, well, who are we going to hire? And we ended up vetting a bunch of really good coaches, dudes that were doing all this stuff. And the one that fit the most was Art Briles, and he was throwing the ball, he was winning championships, and, shoot, that guy had to take a pay cut to come with us. It's one of those deals. So, but I understand, some of that process that you must have gone through, and it's tough because, a job opens, and how many inquiries from guys did you get to join your staff?
Hundreds, probably.
Yeah.
Probably hundreds. Yeah. And I tried to respond to every one of them, and, put them in a file. Cause like you said, each situation is different. And unfortunately or fortunately here at Southwestern Oklahoma, we have to wear many hats. So I had to hire guys that are willing to, defense coordinator, he handles all of our social media, and, I'm not sure there's a lot of defense coordinators out there that handle the social media and making sure we're getting our message out there and our brand. And so.
It's funny you just brought that up. That was a question for later, but I want to hit it now. I'll be honest. I love your social media presence. Now I've heard you say the spot the ball before, and I guess you can't trademark it, but we used to have sting and shoot, at Emporia State. It's like spot the ball. That's freaking awesome. It's like those words to me are like, hey, make me think they're going to play fast. It's intense. Get after it, and don't come unless you're ready to get after it and play fast.
That's right.
And that's just what it means to me. And I can imagine across the board how it helps recruiting. But give me an idea. You say your DC is in charge of your social media presence. How do you guys going in? Because I follow all your guys, and I see what's going on, and I'm noticing that you guys are fantastic at this, at any level. I mean, you're as good as anybody, and I would urge all our people to follow you guys. And I'll put the links on this as well, so everybody can see how you guys do it. But how do you guys come up with what to say and when to say it? How do you create the structure for social media?
We actually meet about it. I'm probably right there where, I'm not saying I'm old, because that's going to make you feel really old. But I'm right there where social media is not, I don't want to say comfortable, but it's something that I have to make sure that I consciously do. So we meet about it. Again, me understanding how important it is, understanding it's a weakness of mine. I've got some young guys on staff. So we meet about it. And the one thing we try to do is we try to make sure our message is clear. There's not, 6 different variations of what we're trying to get accomplished. When you see graphics out there, we're involved in those, because when kids are, retweeting and stuff, they're essentially marketing for your program. So you want to make sure what they're retweeting is a good representation of what you want them to see. Mm-hmm. So you have to be conscious. What we try to avoid as a kid, we offer a kid, and he goes on Google and finds the worst possible representation of this university, and that's what he posts on his social media. So we try to get involved with that. We communicate with the kids what we want them to post. We communicate how we want it to see. We actually have a fine system for our staff. Like the hashtag spot the ball, the S has to be capitalized, the T has to be capitalized, and the B has to be capitalized. And if somebody retweets something and it's not that way, then you have to put $1 in the jar. Just stuff like that, just to make
Oh,
sure that your brand is, what you want. You won't, what you don't see from my guys is you don't see 30 different hashtags. I mean, you might see something funny or something there, but you're going to see spot the ball. There's not an offensive one, defensive one, a wide receiver one, although we will, but that's not the main message. You want to make sure that the message is of our overall program. And then, most of that is done by my guys. We also have our sports information director. He loves that kind of stuff too. He's involved and he does a phenomenal job. But
what's his name?
His name's Doug Self. He's a Kansas guy too.
Oh yeah, because it's funny because he follows me on Twitter or something, and I follow him, and just he puts some good stuff out himself.
He does. He does the. I don't know if you see the Monday Motivation. He does that.
Love it.
He always comes up with ideas. I walk by his office every day, and he said, "What do you think about this?" And we're trying to get into the video part of it now. Okay. We don't have the staff or resources that we need to, but we're trying to get an intern to get us in that, and try to release some short videos and get that going, and just brainstorm with him about that. So it's big, and like I said, it's a brand, and that's what we're trying to sell and trying to get the kids to buy into.
Now, what different social media are you on right now?
Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter. Facebook, I don't really do much with the program with that. I use that more for family, because that's where I put a lot of my daughter stuff on there and gymnastic stuff. That's for my family's still back in West Virginia, my sister and them, so that's a way for them to see videos and stuff. Now I'll do a little bit, but more of it's on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah,
I noticed that Instagram seems to be the one that's been really taken over lately, and there's a lot of videos and a lot of insightful things. It's like I read about it because I look at it and try to figure out what are the best ways to reach that that high school kid that is looking at you, and it's like Twitter is okay, but it's not what Instagram is for engagement, is what I got out of it. Would you agree? Is that how you guys see it?
I would agree, yeah. And that's probably where I don't do as well at Instagram. I'll get better, I know that's something that I'm trying to work on now. And I've gotten to the point where Coach McQuillan, before I would even send out a tweet, I would have him improve it. But I've gotten past that. I think he's given me permission to send out my own tweets. But Instagram is something I've got to pick up my game because it is the new thing. Yeah. And then the other thing is, we got to know what's coming next. And as soon as something gets big, we don't want other people to be using it before us. And try to take advantage of new things as they come, because it's going to come. Yeah. So I got to be ready for it.
As you said, I can remember at one time I was, Michael Starkey used to coach for me at Bethany, and I think y'all were, where were you guys together?
Delta State.
Yeah. And we'd sit there, and first time I ever saw like Periscope, I showed it to him. He thought, "Oh my God, well, it's okay now, but it's nothing like it." First we're thinking this could change the game,
Yeah.
And you got all these different things from that to Vine and all these different, and you don't know until you get in and learn it. And even if it goes dead, you're okay because you've learned something that you can take further when it does become Instagram or something.
I agree.
Like that. Yeah. I'm enjoying it. I'm learning about it. I have to ask younger guys about it, or just people that are more into it. There are people older that are experts at this because they choose to do that,
Yeah.
So it's interesting that way. Now, when you put together this, the coaching staff and you got these guys going, and when was this? Because you knew you got the job. Was it in December, November?
It was
early.
Yeah, it was in November. So I think it was the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I prepared to play Northwest Missouri, the number one defense in the country at the time, that Saturday. And then I came here that Monday, and then I flew to California recruiting for a week in Southern California. And they called me that Friday. So it was the Friday after the season. I think they called me and offered me the job. So immediately, took it, called my guys, and got rolling.
Now, once after you met the team and everything, and they came back in January, and you had that spring to get things going, what are some of the things that you had to do from a culture standpoint, so your players and people in the program understood how you wanted to run this particular program?
Sure. Well, first of all, there wasn't really a problem with the culture here. Coach Kokenar, the guy that was here previously, is a tremendous football coach, and more importantly, a tremendous man, and father. So there wasn't really a bad culture. We just changed the culture.
Okay.
And we wanted to, bring in guys that shared my passion for football and craziness and, willingness to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And to do that, as you know, you need a tremendous amount of energy to do it all the time. And, we ask our guys to do that, when all the time. It doesn't matter. Spot the ball. I mean, we're going to bring that energy. And so that's the main thing, was just having these kids understand that it wasn't just during practice. It wasn't just in the weight room. It was everywhere. When we meet, when we have team meetings, when we're in the weight room, we're going to have a tremendous amount of energy and not, sacrifice anything less than that. We won't sacrifice effort and toughness. And that was it, I think, and I think a little bit, for some reason, I think it was like a facade. They didn't think, they were just waiting for the energy bus to slow down. And then once they realized that these guys really are crazy, they're really going to keep going. Then I think that's when we started to get over the hump a little bit and started to see some big gains in the weight room, probably more than anywhere. We're still a little behind, football wise. 15 days just doesn't seem to be enough in the spring. But we'll get there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know you'll get there. Last thing I worry is about you guys being ready. So I know you're going to be ready, and they're going to play with passion, because I know you and I understand the kind of people you're going to attract to your program. And as you're putting this thing together, and as you think about being there at Southwest Oklahoma State, what makes that place so special to you? Why did you take the job?
Man, I've said this several times, but the people, you know what? And I think you'll appreciate this. It reminds me of back home, just the people, the genuine people. Now, there's not mountains and trees, but
No.
but the people. I got here and I just got a really good vibe. I met the other head coaches, and it really seemed like a family. And then that, in turn, when I started meeting the community and just being here, it's just a place that you just, I don't want to say fall in love with, that sounds corny, but you just feel welcome to. And the people here are really just welcoming. And that's the same thing. We get kids on campus for visits, and they just get that same vibe. There's just something about it. They just get a good feeling and a really genuine feeling from the people here. The administration's been great. You get a head job and hear horror stories about administration.
Mm-hmm.
The athletic director is an old basketball coach and has been very supportive and still knows that this is my first job and knows how to, hey, careful doing this and don't call this guy. And the assistant athletic director was an All-American here, has a very vested interest in this program and has been a huge asset. We probably are in his office daily. That's who I was in earlier, the compliance director.
Okay.
And he was actually a defense coordinator here. He was on the national championship staff when they won a NAIA national championship. So all that combined just seemed like a great fit. And, I just wanted my first job. I wanted to be a place where I felt like I could be there forever. And I'm not saying that's what I want. If that happens, I want to make sure it was someplace I could feel that I could raise my family. And it's been great so far.
Chet, that sounds like a great opportunity for you there. And as you say that, and I, you look at a bunch of different things in this profession, you'd like to go someplace where you're not thinking, oh, this is a stepping stone type job. And I know a lot of guys at the small college level think, hey, I want to be the next guy, like Gus Malzahn or whatever, the guys that rose up through the ranks, and that it does happen. It's like hitting the lottery in some respects, because I know that from when I was at Emporia, I remember Coach Churchma at Northwest Missouri. I mean, he could coach. He could have been the head coach at the University of Missouri just as easily. He did a fantastic job, and there's great coaches at every level. And I've seen coaches even at the certainly at the high school level that just blow people away.
No doubt.
And it's funny. When I took a head coaching job in North Carolina at Inca High School, and a guy that just left one of our rival schools, right? He left there. He was at a school called T.C. Robertson. He leaves to go to be the defensive coordinator for Fred Goldsmith at Lenoir-Rhyne.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, he's the head coach at Lenoir-Rhyne. And then he goes to the Citadel, wins, I think 1 or 2 years now. He's the head coach at James Madison, won a national title. And I mean, it's like 5 years removed from coaching at a high school in Western North Carolina. Got Mike Houston, you know. And so you don't know. I mean, there's great coaches everywhere, and I'm just impressed, you know, what's out there. And what do you notice in this opportunity that you have there? What hurdles did you personally face in doing this job, and how did you overcome those hurdles?
Most of it just would evolve, you know, ignorance or you know, just lack of experience. I mean, we're all a product of our experience. And, you know, I talked to somebody, I don't remember who, but they said, you know, this is probably the only profession where you don't really get a degree in. I mean, nobody really prepares you to be a head football coach. You know, and all of a sudden you're tasked with this huge responsibility. You know, we're probably gonna have 150 kids on the roster this fall, and making sure they get degrees and become good men and good fathers and be responsible. And so, I mean, I'm not sure I'm over those hurdles, but it's just like anything else. You just got to educate yourself and learn from your experiences. And, you know, I pride myself in not making the same mistake twice, and just keep on moving forward and staying positive and do what we do.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right. Don't make the same mistake twice, you know, because Lord knows if you were like me when my first head coaching job in Emporia State, you can't even do the stuff we used to do, Chad. It's like, I think that first year I ran you guys ragged in training camp. We had 3-a-days. You remember?
Yes, we did.
Oh, man.
I feel like one of those old guys. I tell the guy, well, I went 3 days back when I played. But we did. Yeah.
We banged it all the time. There were no rules on that stuff back then. And hours we put in, it was crazy. And I think back to, I think your first game in college, we played Fort Hays State. And we must have dropped, we were a run and shoot team, must have dropped 25 balls in that game.
Yeah, I tell people we threw more balls in that game than I threw my entire high school career.
You're right.
Welcome to college football.
Yeah, and you guys got really good, and that it's beautiful. You know what you and you know another guy was an All-American, Jarrett Vito, you know, all-conference player, and certainly Brian Shea, who's to this day the best back I've ever seen.
Yeah,
you know, you guys had put something really special together there, and you were there for 4 years all together, coming through that program. And I think there's something about guys, there's a bond, because I'm betting that if you, you know, you walked into a bar somewhere, why? Because you're in Oklahoma, you know, and you see Shea, and you see Vito, and you see Trent Fuller, and you see a few of these other guys you played with. I think you guys would have a good time talking about something.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. I mean, and it's amazing because you'll see people that you know we knew from that era, you know, and they'll always ask about, hey, you talk to Vito, hey, you talk to Shea, and everybody always kind of sees us as the same group and knew how. I mean, people noticed how close we were. I mean, and completely different from completely different ends of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, this fall, and it's funny because I was, because of Facebook, and I think Chris Pritchard's on there, and, you know, some of these guys that you played with, it's like this fall will be the 20th anniversary of your senior year.
Yeah.
20 years. It goes by so fast. And, you know, and it was so much fun and good times. Forget all the victories and all the things you guys had, but it was a special time, you know, and I think, as you are creating that for these young men there in Oklahoma, you know, you've got some good things to build upon from that, you know, as a former, you know, tremendous football player in your own right. You know, I wanted to, you know, as we're talking about that time and all that kind of stuff here, I just want to put on just something here for you. It's just a one play. Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. So here you go here. This is an old film I found. Okay. Who's that guy coming in motion?
That's me, believe it or not.
Yes.
Look
at him go. Well, it ain't over yet. Wow. Hey, I mean, that needs an encore. Let's take a look at that one more time. I mean, you guys made the jet sweep famous. I mean, the freaking Patriots are running this stuff now.
We were actually talking about that today.
Look at this. There's Vito down there running all the way down the field with you on the backside.
Big Pritch right there. Somebody, a Dillard right there. I mean, that is.
Wow. You guys were good, man.
That play worked because everybody thought Shea was going to get the ball. So they all went to him.
Exactly. No, I thought you'd appreciate that. You probably hadn't seen that in a while.
No, it's been a while.
Yeah. So I think it's, it's interesting when you look at those kind of things and you say, wow, what an opportunity we had. Because, you went pretty far away to school. I mean, the Ohio Valley, where you grew up there in the Wheeling area, to come all the way out to Emporia, Kansas. And what was that experience like for you? And I know you got to recruit heavy in Oklahoma because there's great football there, but you actually recruit anybody as far away as you have come to go to school when you played for us?
Yeah, I mean, like we return every phone call, every email, and if somebody sends us a good player, we're gonna check them out. So, we've got kids from California, all over. We recruit heavily in Texas and Oklahoma because of the proximity. I mean, basically, we drew a 4-hour circle around Weatherford, and that's the area we recruit heavily. But we won't turn, any bad player away. We'll check him out. I mean,
okay.
I've been brought up, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you got to do that. And, we even had guys from New Jersey, coming out you played with and all that. So I think there's, you get a nice culture built within that. And I'm excited to see, just how the next few years unfold for you guys. Let's talk a little bit of ball now. When you think about your influences, your schematic influences on each side of the ball, and give me, what are some of your influences as you approach, as you approach this head coaching job?
Wow. I mean, I've been really fortunate in that aspect to be exposed to a lot of different things. I said I played for my dad. We threw the ball probably 3 times a game. Mm-hmm. And then I went to college and played for you, and we threw the ball 60 times in the first game I ever played in. And then my first coaching experience was under Jerry Kill when we were running split back veer the first year. So, I mean, you're talking about going from 3 extremes with my 3 really first experience with football. And then the next few years, I probably didn't really know what I was doing, figuring my way through it. And, at that point, probably thought I knew more than I did. And I think we all go through that stage a little bit. And then I had the opportunity to work for Ron Roberts. And I know you worked with Ron. And, not just, he's a tremendous defensive mind, but he's also a tremendous teacher. And I learned how important teaching can be and how he had a really unique way of approaching some of the simplest of tasks that, maybe get overlooked, and he would just have a unique perspective. And with that, I worked with a couple guys. Pete Golding is now, he's the co-DC at Alabama. And Pete is he's a defensive guy, but just Pete's way of teaching and talking to kids. And when Pete coaches the kid, you could just feel the generosity and how genuine he was. And I think the kids really respected it. Even if he was yelling at them, they knew it was from his heart. And I really learned a lot from him of how to really teach kids and really, how to approach them. And then the last few years, Wes Satterfield, Wes is now the OC at Austin Peay, and Wes has a really unique mind. He has a really unique way of looking at things and teaching. Again, going back to that, when we hired Wes, I really was impressed with his approach to coaching the quarterbacks. And I'll be honest, I probably mimic that as much as possible. And as I learn new things about how we coach quarterbacks, I always call Wes and we share ideas. And then even more recently, I had a graduate assistant last year. His name's Derek Fulton. He's now the pass game coordinator at Grandview in Des Moines, Iowa there. Mm-hmm. And he's one of those young guys that just really brought a new perspective of evaluating talent and schemes. And, like I said, he was a graduate assistant, but I would say he was an influence a little bit because just, how he thought, it was unique and it was different. And he wasn't afraid to say, well, what about this? And he's got a big circle and just speak the language. So a couple of defensive guys in there, a graduate assistant, you and my dad, and, you put it all together, and it's a lot of stuff going on up there.
Yeah, how do you sort through all that as you got to make these decisions yourself, as a coach? I mean, you've got some really good influences, and like I said, you talk about going from playing for me, and then Jerry Kill comes in. That's a totally different thing because I can remember when I left there and went to Wyoming, and I came back in my office, and Jerry was in there, and we just talked a little bit, and you know, and it was almost like, you didn't leave me a whole lot of talent or something. It was something to that effect, and
Yeah.
I'm like thinking like in my mind, we were loaded. I mean, we lost some guys on the offensive side, but that defense was like, I didn't know if everybody was going to score on those guys.
Yeah.
It was like the next thing. And it's like, and I said, well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're a great football coach and, you run the option and it's not much different. You got some good dudes and all that. But I thought it was interesting. We're so different,
Yeah.
but part of what I think what we were doing, like tell our listeners, our viewers here, like how tall you were and you probably still are, and what you weighed when you played for us in college.
I 5'8". I'll give myself 5'8" or right around there. I was 5'9" back then, but I'm realistically I'm right about 5'8". I weighed about 155 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Garrett was he was 5'6", maybe.
Yeah, the other slot, right?
Yeah, the other
Five,
slot.
six. Yeah.
And Brian wasn't much taller. He was probably 5'9", maybe.
Yeah.
He was a lot heavier than we were, but
yeah. And that
was probably the most alluring thing for me to go is when, I visited with you and you said, you can come here and you can play on offense as a freshman. I said, sign me up because, everybody else was talking about redshirting and, and I thought I was going to have to play baseball because I didn't think I was going to be big enough to play football. But, when you told me I was going to have the opportunity to play young, I was all for it. I think that I knew that I physically was going to be able to play football for 5 years. And, when you said that I could play, I was jumped on board, ready to go. And it worked out.
Yeah, it did work out. And that's what's interesting, I think, when you have a unique system, but it's like, when you go from that to might be a conventional system or even an option offense where you're looking for a different body type, you can come in and think it's half empty, and it's a tough deal. And I understand, what Coach Kill was talking about when he mentioned that to me. But, I think in the end, what I thought about guys like yourself and a lot of the guys you played with was we found guys with great heart and guys that would compete. And I'm really intrigued as to how, since you've been there, what you do to instill that competitive environment in your football program.
I think you try to create competition as much as possible. I think as coaches, we naturally do that because we're competitive people. We want to see people compete and we want to compete with them. And, that's one thing. And then, really, I don't know how to say it without just being radically transparent, but you got to move on the ones that aren't. I mean, you can't teach a dog that won't bite to bite. I don't know how to say it, but you just try to find ways to identify and culture that, that attitude and that heart and really try to bring the most out as much as you can. And then a little bit, I think, is you try to pin up and cultivate as much as you can. So when it's time to unleash that competitive, you do. I think there's also a point where you can do too much of it too early, too often, where you kind of gotta save a little bit. So when we get to Saturday, then it's kind of just like unleashing the dog out of its cage. So, but I think that's another thing. I think we're always trying to find ways to compete and find get people in competitive. There's all kinds from the old days of the Oklahoma drill to we'll do quiz shows. Divide teams up into teams and do, literally have a game show that's about quizzes or we might just say, hey, let's go. We're going to do we call them gridiron challenges. And the gridiron challenge might be the first team that everybody make a layup. So guys compete. So I think you can cultivate that and we'll try every day. I think it's one of our jobs as coaches to find ways to get guys to compete. And if they don't, then they're not in the wrong sport.
Well, no question about that. It is the last bastion of discipline and the opportunity to come together as a group. And I always thought it was. I brought this up before in previous episodes. I think the beauty of football is that Unlike most sports, baseball may be the only other one like this, where when you look at a team, you can see people in society. In other words, like, hey, here's a 300-pound dude. Oh, I saw a dude that looked like that in the mall. You know what I mean? Oh, here's a little guy. And they're all playing. It's not like basketball. You walk out there, they're all,
Yeah.
monsters, like height, tall guys. You have all different types playing this game. And that's why I think so many people identify with the game itself.
Yeah, and demographics and ethnicities and all that too. I mean, and then to get them all to believe in the same goals, and it's awesome. That's why we do what we do. I mean, ultimately,
No
they all
question.
go in the locker room and tell jokes, and I mean, it's amazing. I mean, guys come from all over, from different backgrounds, and
Hmm.
that's the beauty of it. I mean, ultimately.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that really, it's why we do it. You're right, and it's exciting, and I'm fired up for you. And let's move on right now to another area that I always like to get to pick guys' brains on, and it's more about optimizing your life, and coaching is, as we said before, it's the greatest profession in the world, and certainly we love the game. But how do you balance your life as a father, a husband in this profession, because there is quite a bit to be done in this profession.
Yeah, I've been following you talking about that, and I'm really glad that you do, and it's something that I really pride myself in. You know, there was a time there about 10 years when winning was the most important thing, and we won a bunch of games. And then somewhere I realized that quality of life was a little bit more important than winning football games. Not that we're not still trying to win football games. That's not what
Oh,
I'm saying. I'm just saying that quality of life needs to be a factor. Again, going back to why I took this job, I felt that quality of life could be very good here. But I think there has to be some co-inhabitants between your family life and your football coaching life. At least that's my approach to it. I don't know how other coaches do it. Where my daughter is part of the family. You know, if she's coming here to visit me, I want her to walk in my position meeting, sit on my lap, and give me a kiss on the cheek, and I want to kiss her back and say, "I love you, baby." And I want not only do I want her to realize that, but also those young men that are in that room that can realize that I can still be a coach and I can still tell my child that I love them and it's okay. And they see that. The other part of it is I bought a boat. I mean, why?
nice.
Everybody's like, why do you don't have enough time to use it? Yeah, but I do. And when I do, I'm creating memories. I mean, and then I'm not saying buy a boat. I'm saying whatever you're going to do, find a way to create memories with your child. And that's why I bought a boat, because I want to make sure that we're creating those memories, and memories aren't just daddy on the football field, and we're doing other things. And I think it's real important. And my wife, you mentioned Holly, my wife works in Florida. She
Yeah.
travels every Sunday, or she travels for Florida for a week and works, and then she travels home and works from home for a week. So my time with my wife, if you think about it, she's home only 6 months out of the year. So my time with her is also very precious. So I think you just have to make a conscious effort to make it important. Just like, I mean, you're going to make third downs important. I'm make my family. I'm not trying to compare my family to the third down situation. I'm saying that you have to really prioritize of what is going to be important. And my family is the utmost importance, and I won't sacrifice that.
Yeah.
But also, I think if I show that to these young men, you know, that I truly believe that, then they see that as well. And shoot, maybe I'll create a couple more dads out of the whole deal. I don't know, um, but when I say family is important, it's important. And when I include my family with my football family, I think that goes a long way. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that answers your question, but it's
No.
something that I think it's extremely important. And I know when I made a conscious effort to really, I hate saying balance, because it's not a balance.
No.
It's more of a circle of how to keep that circle going. My life got better. You know, it's amazing. All of a sudden, I get a head coaching job. You know, things just start to get more positive. It's amazing how life works that way.
Yeah. No. You're spot on. I mean, makes a lot of sense, Chet. As you're doing that, and I remember about your wife being, almost, halfway around the country like that.
Yeah,
How you may be the only coach I know that's dealing with that on a regular basis. I've seen some guys, like when I coach in the Canadian League, our O line coach, his wife stayed back in Cincinnati and he was away for 6 months and then he'd come home. I have not seen this way of making it work. How do you make it work?
Okay. I got one more variable. You know, my daughter, she goes to the gym 26 hours a week too.
Yeah.
So they got two main things right here. It's my mom and dad. My
Okay.
mom and dad, they moved to Louisiana. Then we went to Missouri. They moved to Missouri, and then they moved with us here to Oklahoma. And you know my father. He's the one. He's still the rock. He's the one still keeping this thing rolling. Mom does just as well. I'm not saying that, but you know, dad. He's gonna. If I'm here in Hollies in Florida, he's shuffling low. My daughter Carlo, he's shuffling low from school to gym and then back to gym and make sure she gets fed. Mom makes sure she prepares dinner. So
Wow.
again, going back to the family thing, we probably couldn't do it without my mom and dad, the way we're going right now. So yeah, family.
God bless him. Yeah. No,
And,
you got a great
and
son.
I want to say this too. My staff again, they do a great job too. I mean, they know what they signed up for, and I mentioned Tyler again. Lauren calls him Uncle Tyler. I mean, I say, Tyler, I got to go pick up low from gym today. I got it. What do you need me to do? You know, the guys don't. When they say it takes a village, here it takes a staff and a couple grandparents. So I mean, and everybody's chipping in, and I think everybody probably thinks this, but I got a great daughter. She's awesome, and I think it's because of all the people that's around her.
No question. I can see that, and you're very fortunate
Yeah.
in that area. Yeah, no doubt. What give me some insight as to some things throughout your coaching career. You know, you've alluded to, you know, the way to get more. If it's not balance, it's emphasis in different areas of your life. Have you incorporated any routines that help you get a grip on the day? You know, the day to day. Any type of things that routines that you maybe didn't do when you were a younger coach and you do now that actually help you you know, take command of all the aspects of your day?
Well, the first thing is technology. When I started coaching, what can be done in a half hour took 2 days, essentially, with organizing film and stuff like that. So we try to stay ahead of the boat with technology because something's always coming, something's always evolving to make our jobs easier. You know, work smarter, not harder, however that might be. And then I think if you're regimented in how you plan your days, you know, whether it's camp, I think you can make it all work. Um, and we try to be very efficient, you know, not a lot of wasted time. And in order to do that, you know, I tell these guys all the time, everybody has to pull the rope in the same direction. And coach, I would think that if you would come just watch this staff, I think you would really see that. I'll give you a great example. We had camp in Dallas a few weeks ago. And after the camp, all of the coaches, every one of them, went and grabbed bags and trash cans and dummies and put it away. Not one person was standing around, you know, and I just kind of looked around and I didn't really ask them to do that, but everybody just kind of did it. And what happened, maybe two guys would have taken 30 minutes. 9 of us, it took 10.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. You know, we try to come in the mornings. So after practice, we're out of here. We're eating dinner with our families. I can remember eating dinner with my with my mom and dad. And I think it's important. I don't want these guys for 4 months or whatever, not eating dinner with their families, but one day a week. I know some staffs have the family day. Well, we'll come in the mornings. And, you know, just like anything else, things are going to come up. There might be some days we might have to come in after practice. I mean, I think we know that's going to happen, but we try to be done after practice, try to do everything in the morning. So like I said, we should be done 5, 6 o'clock. They go home and then come in the next morning. Thursdays, you know, we really try to get things to be efficient, get done, have a quick practice, get out here. And then Fridays we come in at 10. So Friday morning, if you want to cut the grass or go get your hair cut or whatever, you know, honeydews you have to do, we'll try to staff at 10. So just like I said, just having a regimented schedule and abide by it as much as possible. But in order to do that, you know, you got to, as you know, you got to really be on the front end. You got to make sure a lot of stuff are handled. So as problems, you know, come up as you go, you've already got solutions or you've already thought about it. And so really trying to have a lot of foresight and planning of what could come about. So.
Now, what do you think when you're actually structuring your program? We look at the big picture, you know, the view over the top. Do you have some philosophy or way that you look at things like, okay, this is the big picture, and now I got to get in and start dealing with certain things? What do you do in that area? Because I'm always intrigued Oh,
I'm going to let everybody in on a little secret that you somehow got to me through you, but I take a Parthenon approach to our program.
oh, stop.
Yeah. And if
Okay.
believe it or not, I kind of do it with most of the phases in my life. I have a Parthenon approach to coaching quarterbacks, where and essentially, and I know you know this, but you have the foundation, which, for our program is family. I'm not going to get into specifics, but just things that are important to us. And then you have your pillars that hold the roof up, and the roof is essentially creating a winning culture. And those pillars are what: marketing, recruiting, social media, compliance, anything that has to do with your program, with the thought being that if one of those pillars would happen to fail, then the rest would still hold the roof up. Strength and conditioning. If your strength and conditioning is bad, well, you better recruit really good players. Or if your recruiting's bad, then you better have a really good developmental program. So that's kind of the overall approach that we take to it. And so that's not a secret to you, because I kind of learned that from you.
Okay.
And I think also when you talk about that and you talk about the Parthenon approach, people get interested. Like, what is it? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
But some people, I know you probably don't understand it. Some people don't know what the Parthenon is, and I got to explain to them
Sure. Yeah.
what it is. And so, yeah, that's kind of, even when I came on an interview, I showed them. I said, this is my plan. This is the overview. These are the pillars. And then I assign leadership teams to each one of those pillars. I call them leadership teams,
Mm-hmm.
but it's basically an assistant coach and a couple other guys. So somebody's in charge of the training room. So foreseeing any problems in the training room. Somebody's overseeing the strength and conditioning. So now it's not just me, and I'm going to as well, but now we have these other leadership teams looking at these pillars to make sure that they're not going to fail. So that's kind of the overall of how we do that. Except I don't want to get too specific, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're going, and I think you're able to really set a great foundation for your players, which is what it's all about. A lot of times, I don't know if players realize all that goes into organizing a program.
Yeah, and at this level, it's unfortunate or whatever, but people that our jobs rely on aren't held accountable to us. So we got to make sure that stuff's done. I got tremendous people. I'm not saying that, but if I got a bad strength coach, I got to make sure that we overcome that. Or if the trainer isn't, preventing injuries, we got to find a way to do that. So, because, it's in Alabama, if those guys aren't ready, then it's their jobs. But, at the D2 level, that's not, they're not held accountable to me. So I got to make sure they're not costing me players.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely understand that. Let's wrap this up with a couple final thoughts. And we talked ball, and we talked a few different things as far as optimizing your life. And are there any resources out there that that when you were, I don't know, 15 years ago, you wish, like, I wish I'd have known then what I know now type thing? What is out there for a young guy that's just coming out, where you were as a GA at Emporia, what's out there that young guys can learn from to
everything. I mean, I think, you hit the nail. I wish there was so much that I know, and I can't imagine 15 years from now what else I'm going to learn. But I think just being open-minded. But we have so much information right available to us. I mean, you can get on YouTube and look up wide receiver drills, and you could probably find thousands of them. And, the thousands, I'm sure you can find something you can find useful. I mean, just something as simple as YouTube. But I like to read. People that I think I share philosophies with. Not exclusively, because you got to get a different point of view. But I just, the last book I read was Bruce Arians' No Risk, or The Quarterback Whisperer. No risk and no biscuit. I love that. I mean.
Love it. Yeah.
So I think just use the resources, be open-minded, never think you know enough. And probably the greatest thing for me, Coach, is I talk to as many people as I can. I mentioned some of those people with Wes Satterfield. We were talking about trunk rotation, how it's comparable to a boxer's punch and being in a tight space and being able to get that movement going, and just talking with Wes and him, relaying that back to me. And then, like I mentioned, Derek Fulton, and might come up with some news. This is the way we're running mesh here, and I don't like it. Why do you run it that way? And just talking to people that I know is probably the biggest resource. I can't think of anything else. And I'll constantly try to create that too with my staff. Like, hey, call so-and-so and see how they're blocking, I don't know, inside zone. See how they're working their tempos and just getting different ideas. And a lot of times it's not something that I think if you're trying to implement it right now, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
So trying to see ahead of like, I just talked to Coach Hennis about let's reach out to people and talk to them about how they're doing tempos, how they're changing tempos, how they're going fast, because I think there's always, that's probably the biggest thing is there's always new things and new ways to do things. And you probably realize this before a lot of other people, but we don't live in a world of Civil War football. You don't just line 11 guys up and see who the toughest team is. I mean, we're not all blessed with the best players. So we got to find ways to use our players and athletes. And as each situation comes up, you got to ask different questions to different people.
Oh, there's no doubt. And and the thing I like about what you're saying is also you've got, I've noticed it's fairly interesting because you can take a totally different part outside of football and learn something and apply it. People say, oh, this is out of the box thinking, and that's sort of a cliche, but it's an interesting viewpoint. Like in the off season this year, I was looking at some things. I was studying I don't know if you know who this is, but he's a swordsman, a guy named Musashi. He was a famous Japanese swordsman. Okay.
Yeah.
And, it's what the samurai came from. Okay. This is the guy that's like the lineage goes back to I think the 1600s maybe, but, and I start studying this and I start noticing some things in that particular book. Now that book is it's this big. I mean, it's a monster. I forget 1,500 pages, huge. But this one little part I got out of it, I thought was intriguing because it talked about what's old is new. Okay. And almost like the circle of the way a certain technique would go. So he'd be talking about swordsmanship and he had the most kills ever for a swordsman back in the day. Right. And he used a particular technique and flipped it from something he had learned as a young swordsman to much later in his life. But he just put a different twist on it. So it's almost like, people talk about, oh, here's RPOs. It's sort of interesting that I remember we didn't call them RPOs, but it was basically option throw, and people were doing that a long time ago. And so you take something old, there's some value to it, and you put a new twist on it, you come up with a variety of different things. Have you ever noticed some of that in the game?
Oh, there's without a doubt. I mean, there's still stuff that I refer back to when I played. I mean, that I just did it because you told me to, but I was involved with what we were doing enough. I mean, you had me playing quarterback, safety, corner.
Yeah.
So, but there's still stuff from there that you refer back to. And I think it goes back to, again, is your product of your experiences. And if you take things that you learn or know and you make it your own, then it becomes something else, whether it's an RPO or how you run the jet sweep. And that's what makes each of us unique and how we, our offenses or defenses or whatever it might be. But yeah, I think it hit it right on the head. I mean, we do a lot of stuff. We still run gap scheme, it's probably one of the, so, I think that's a good point right there. But the other thing you said about with the samurai is just stuff like that. I think kids are interested in learning about different ways and how it applies to them. When you tell a kid like, look, this is a samurai and how this applies to making you a better football player, I think it really catches them from a different light where it's not just the football coach saying, okay, take this 6-inch step because that's the way everybody else has done it. But it reminds me of a story we talked to our quarterbacks about not having to take a step to throw the football and create a lot of power. And at first they think they got to take this big step. And I show them a video of Nomar Garcia-Parra picking his foot up and putting it right back down and hitting a 98-mile-per-hour fastball at the park. And they just think, wow. It's,
he's got
just things like that. Yeah. So,
that's a good point. No, that's awesome, Chet. And then once again, thank you for taking the time out to visit with me. And I'm sure we'll do this again at some point. Tell your parents, best from me. And hey, I'm excited to watch your career as it unfolds as a head coach. And they're very fortunate to have you there in Weatherford, Oklahoma.
Thanks, Coach. Good seeing you.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.